Hello! Let's go ahead and make a base for this rat man. He's all finished up and, well, minus his tail. But I'm ready to base him up and make this thing look pretty. Let's do it. To start, you need some PVA glue. And then this is the texture paste that I use. Basics Acrylics. What is it? Coarse Texture Medium. Super simple. It just is a texture paste. I'll take a, plastic palette, put some PVA glue, and then that texture paste over it. And then I will mix it up really nice and well. You don't even really need the PVA glue, but I do it just for better adhesion. And all you do is spread it right here. And then you want to get a nice thin layer around the whole model. The reason why I use this instead of just PVA glue is because it has a little bit of a longer drying time. Plus you can kind of make some texture with it with your palette, and all the stuff that I'm going to put on top of it sticks very nicely. You see how I'm just like kind of dabbing it here? It'll make a nice little texture, but I am going to need some more, so I'll finish this base up and then I'll be right back. Again, it is okay to get some of this onto the model, because it'll actually help that texture blend in. I use this on, like, I don't know, most of my bases, especially if I want it to be nice and uniform. But this, like I said, it's a really good method. You can find that paste stuff at any hobby store, and you'll see whenever I put the granules of sand and larger rocks on here how to look after. You won't even really notice that it's down here, but it does work really well and gives a little bit of a better texture. Helps it blend in. Also, remember to wipe the rim with some gloves. It does help if you have this model, tacked down to something it's standing on, or it's stuck to, but in this case I do not, so fail on me there. But regardless, I just kind of wipe the rim clean. Try to get all the excess off, and plus it'll round out any parts that you're missing. You could also get those little granules off if you wanted later on with something like an alcohol, or regardless. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and put some stones on them. Okay, but I'm going to show you guys the sand and the granule stuff that I use. I use 3 different sizes. This is the really fine coarse stuff right here. Here is the medium grit, and then also here's the larger kind of pebbles. The reason that I use 3 different variants is because it adds more texture to the base, making it look slightly more realistic. Now I do have some larger rocks that I am going to put onto this base because the GW model has some larger stones around this, and I thought it would look nice. That PVA glue will be useful for binding this there. If not, you can always stick it with some super glue. I went and got a plate from the kitchen because the bowl I normally use is actually too small for this guy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with the largest rocks and decide where I want to place them. We're going to put them in the areas that have the most kind of tack. That's good right there. Let's put another one over here. Something like that. We're going to add a small one next to this bigger rock. And then we're going to turn them around and put one more in the back. Boop, something like that. And I press them down, of course, right? Alright, now with the next biggest size, these are going to be much smaller, but I want to put them around these bigger rocks. Kind of shows some chippage almost in a way of the bigger rocks. We'll put them around in other areas as well, but generally this is kind of how I like to do it. And you can just let them free fall if you really want. Now we're going to go with the sand size. And I'm literally just throwing this stuff on there. Something that's actually a good idea, whoops, is to have, oh, I'm going to have to get some rocks off of this guy, is to have another jar and I'll show you that here in a second, of granule that is all different types of sizes. And that way you could just dip your model in there if you really want to have a quick finish. Let's tap this guy off for a moment. There we go. That's starting to look nice. Generally what I do is I take the whole base of the model, if it's something the size of a Space Marine, and I just like dip it in here for the final stuff. But I'm actually going to have to pour it onto this model because it's just too big. And it's okay if I waste a lot of this. It's not really that big of a deal. You can always get more, but this is the area that, or this stuff covers the majority of the model. You see, we got a ton of excess on here. You can't even see what it looks like. We can see that it's starting to look pretty darn nice. I'm gonna go stick this bad boy under the heater and then show you that collection jar I was talking about. Alright, here's the magical, mystical collection jar. Look, you can just tell I have a bunch of crap in there. And like I said, for people that want to do some fast basing, this stuff is really great for that. You just put PVA glue on your base and then you just stick that guy in there and shake them around and you'll get all different types of textures. And there we go, the pile grows. While we're waiting for that to dry, I figured I'd go over some of the other basing materials that I have, and I wanted to start off with this awesome leaf litter from Green Stuff World. I have 4 different types: yellow, orange, brown, and green. Now if you look on their website, this stuff actually, oh shoot, I have to take this tape off, god dang it. As I was saying, this stuff actually comes in different sizes, if I'm not incorrect about that. You can just go check it out on their website. This actually is for larger scale model stuff, like 75mm display models, but it's really awesome. They look just like leaves, and you can actually mash these up and make smaller leaves if you really wanted to. So this stuff's great. Next I have some beautiful static grass. This is really great for putting some PVA glue down, taking some tweezers, and just like dabbing it in there. It makes a really awesome grass effect. I might even do it on this model a little bit. And of course, where there is static grass, there is also this blended turf. This is pretty old school from my understanding. A lot of scale train modelers, I believe, make this. Yeah, and look, you can even see it right here. Same kind of concept, PVA glue down, just drizzle that stuff over. And of course I have the tufts, the standard tufts, right? These are 3 different colors that I have, the most common that I like to use. I also have some moss. It's just, you know, your standard moss. And you can use this for different applications. Again, I use this for a little bit larger scale modeling, but regardless, you can make some really, really cool effects with this on smaller scale stuff as well. And then last but not least, this stuff is absolutely great. I don't even remember the company that I got it from, but it's basically small branches with that, what do they call it? The tuft, the grass tufts kind of like glued on, but they look very, very realistic. And I've made some really incredible like woodland bases out of these, and I'll put a picture up to show you one of them. But this stuff is great. It's got so much variation in it. It even comes with little stuff like this, like these little tiny little twigs. But it is absolutely great. I can't remember the company. I'll put the name up as well. But this stuff is so much fun to use, and you can get some really realistic looking bases. Alright, now that this is basically as dry as I need it to be to at least paint on it, I'm going to go ahead and paint around the areas that I don't want to airbrush. Yes, I will be using an airbrush to coat a lot of this. It's just faster, right? But it'll be something like just these feet right here. I'll paint around with a watered down paint. I like to use a watered down one so it spreads a little bit better. Golden brown from Pro Acryl is going to be the base. Watch, you can kind of see the capillary effect when it spreads out like this. Look, see it kind of spreading out. That's why I like to water it down. Makes it nice and easy, especially when you're getting in these tight areas like this. Full concentration mode right now. A little bit of X28 thinner from Tamiya. Let's see. A couple drops, 2, 3 maybe. That's a few actually. Drops of that beautiful golden brown. And then I just mix it up with a synthetic brush, and that's really it. Depending on how thick or thin I want it. I do a lot of airbrushing, or a lot of glazing with airbrushes, and I really like that. So a little bit of backflow for some extra mixing, and away we go. Oh my gosh, the dust that came off there was crazy. Little bit of a MLG tip here, you know, have a spray bottle that has isopropyl alcohol in it, and I use this to clean out my airbrush in between color changes if it's something serious. Sometimes you don't have to though. Oh yeah, something super important that I forgot is I take that isopropyl that's in the cup and I'll just go around my needle several times, and you can actually look at it and see the paint come off of the needle. So that's super beneficial to preventing clogs or from it spraying in wonky directions, etc., etc. Be careful so you don't bend your needle tip. So you could do one of two things here in this method. I've done it both ways, but I like to test it out sometimes first to see what it looks like. The first method that I'm not going to use is I'm going to take some, or I would take Agrex Earthshade and I would just put a fat coat over this whole thing. In fact, in like a short I made, I think I did that. But I'm going to go ahead and try it out with just dry brushing it. It's going to be like a golden yellow, golden brown color. We're going to see how that looks, and if it doesn't come out good, then I am going to do it with a shade and then dry brush it. So I have two color options here. I could use golden brown. I think it's a little too desaturated compared to yellow ochre. And if I wanted to, I could always bump it up with another yellow or something, but I think I'm going to try it with the yellow ochre first and see if I get that tone I'm looking for. A little bit more yellowish, more tan than the golden brown. So we're going to try that out. Alright, let's see what this looks like. Alright, you can see it better over here actually. Look, I like this a lot. I don't think I need a... Look, I'm not even dry brushing like they teach you, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of going at it. I'm not even knocking all the paint off, but I really like the way that this is looking. Just catching the edges of all these little details. And it's coming out nicely. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll see how it looks. Then I have another trick that I'm going to show you to make this really look good. Those little small areas where some of the rocks chipped up, I'm just going to take that same color and kind of dab it in some of these areas. No harm, no foul. It's kind of a crazy environment that he's in, so maybe some sand is showing through a little more in some of these areas. I'd say I'm loving that a lot. Now, I'm going to actually do something different than I had planned. I'm going to put some grass tufts here, and in between these rocks, static grass like I was telling you about earlier, and we're going to see how that looks. Before I do that, I have to paint this, which I don't really want to do right now, but I'm going to do it anyways. Alright, this guy's all painted up now. I can get to doing what I wanted to show you now. Woohoo! Oh, f***. Just dropped the... Oh, it's on my leg. I just dropped that guy. Anyways, I'm going to strategically place some of these tufts here. So something's going to go like right there. Press that sucker in. And then one right behind these rats, like right here. Uh-oh. We're lacking right here. I just put a little bit of PVA glue underneath that rock. And now I'm going to tweezer in some of this static grass. See, I like that. I like the way that looks. It's kind of standing up. Kind of looks like it's making its way in there. So that's the idea. And I would say I'm pretty satisfied with that. But there's still one more step that really ties everything in together. But I got to paint these damn rats. Alright. Tiny rats are done. As much as I didn't want to paint them, it was actually kind of enjoyable. Now it's time for a cool part. And here's your secret right here. To me, a weathering master. So what I do is I take my hobby knife, I make a bunch of scores, right? Just like this. Both ways. And that's going to break it up to where it starts to be more of a, clumpy powder. And then I take my knife. Don't worry, it's not dope. And then I take my knife and start chopping it up from all different types of angles. And I'm going to show you what I do with this. I take this really fat brush that I like, and I just load that sucker full of this powder, just like this. Just dab it in there as hard as I can. Of course, you know what I'm about to do with this. But I take it, then I take the model, and I jam it into places where I want there to be a lot of dust. Just like this. You can actually take this stuff and you can dab it onto the model, and it really makes him look like he's been walking in dirt, and I love it. I think it is so cool. And let me show you. I put it all in these areas that are, darker. Trail it out a little bit. Break up the monotony some, because you don't want it to look like just a big old blob of pigment. And I dabbled this little stone piece right here so that I could specifically put this pigment powder over it. And it's like, oh, but it could fall off. Like, yeah, it could, but I'll show you what you do to seal it in. And some people probably already know this trick, but it's useful in case you don't know it. And like I said, I like to get around these rocks. These little rock areas are really good for it. Alright, now that we've got this done, I take my little alcohol spritzer, make sure it's spritzing well, and I spray all of it. I actually want to keep some of the chunky bits in here, and the reason why is because it clumps up and it makes it form a nice pigment powder. And that should be good enough right there in order to get everything that I want. And this actually makes that pigment stick, and once it dries, it makes it look like it's powdery again. And that's what you want. That's what I want, right, with this model. So I'll let this dry and then we'll finish up. Here's a close-up of those areas that I was talking about. It really makes it look like there's dirt and dust in there right underneath the rats. You can see it's already dried up and it's good to go. I'm loving that. We are now at the best part of any project, although I don't have the tail on this guy yet. We are going to rim this base with a nice Vallejo black. And I'm just using the edge of that brush, going along this edge nice and smoothly. Trying to make it look nice and uniform. Alright, well, check that out. I think that this base came out pretty damn good. Could have been better, right? But I think it came out good in terms of variation, realism, the color, the depth, all that kinds of stuff. But I think it came out great, and yeah, hopefully you learned something good from this, and I'm looking forward to making some more stuff like this. This is the stuff I really like to make and make content on, so I'll see you guys soon, and enjoy yourselves and be safe.